You have, by example, invested in your own leadership and your own education, and continue to. Your experiences certainly at the Country Club of Lansing, as you have mentioned many times, have continued to add to your experiences. How do we encourage more people to invest in themselves and to invest in the leadership principles and roles that will help them succeed when we have a tendency to want to follow?
It's not easy. It's not easy to convince people to want to lead. You have to go away from the pack. It's uncomfortable. So that's why seeking help is so important, because you can't do it alone. Some people can, but most people can't. And we need more leaders, and companies need more leadership, and they need help getting there.
Do you think some leaders are afraid to invest in their employees getting key leadership training because then they become a threat to their own leadership?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe at a lower level, in a very, very large company, a lower level manager may worry about that among people underneath him or her. I think most leaders, in certainly not in a smaller company, they're trying to make it. They're going to take any advantage they can get. So I don't see that in my experience, I haven't seen that as a problem.
The third step, I'm going to go back to the strategic planning process. The third step in the strategic planning process is the implementation of the strategies that the planning process has identified. Mm-hmm. So we talked about stage one, or phase one, being the assessment phase, where we interview key people and we start to build this trend and understanding of what the business is today. Mm-hmm. And many times people start to give you an idea of where it should go, or else their own opinions of where it should go. We went and then the second phase was facilitating the actual process, which you had alluded to. Takes time, takes an investment of time on the members' standpoint. It's not a let me tell you what you should do. It's a process of discovery, and becoming unified, so that you have a common authorship to whatever you end up in your process with as a document. That's where most companies fail. They're willing to invest in the assessment phase. They're willing to invest in the process phase, whether it's 4 hours or 4 weeks or 4 months.
Sure.
But where companies tend to struggle is in the implementation phase. In the part where they say, okay, that was a good experience for us to go through that, but we're not going to change anything.
Right.
Because that makes us uncomfortable.
Right.
How do we encourage companies to then follow the direction that has been offered?
Let me jump in. I can tell you one of the reasons it worked here this time is because we've had consultants in past years. While I was involved, we've had consultants, and it's exactly what you said. The consultant gave their report. We agreed with a lot of it, and nothing changed. And so once you've spent money and done that a few times and gotten nowhere, you realize if you want to get anywhere, you got to go to that next phase. I think you were in going through the discovery phase. You did constantly remind us that this is just step 2, and we need to go to step 3. And everybody in the group understood that step 3 was the next step. And so laying that out from the beginning, when you laid out the whole process, the 4 steps, everybody bought into it on day 1. Whereas when with consultants in the past, they never even introduce step 3. They never talk about it. They just come and give you a report, you write them a check, and they leave.
Right.
And so having you stay involved long term, and I think we even have you involved for a couple more years.
Correct.
Through this process, because that's how much we've bought into believing in the implementation of it, and that we're going to constantly be implementing these things. It doesn't happen overnight. You can't just flick a switch. People don't change that easy. It's difficult to bring change. It takes time, and that's why having you involved for the period of time we have you, a couple more years, is going to be critical.
Is implementation, in your estimation, a thing? Is it a person, or is it a sustainable thought, no matter the thing or the person?
And well put. It's a sustainable thought. It has to be something that, especially in the economy we're in. I mean, any business that's trying to survive has to be thinking change. That's the only way they're going to survive in this environment. And change is something that is always happening. It's never perfect in perpetuity. You don't want to define your business too narrowly, like the railroad did when they never got into the cars,
Sure.
or the trucks.
Sure.
So that applies. You apply that. That's been something that business schools have taught for years, going back to that railroad example.
Right.